Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh pushes back on white guilt in public schools when it comes to the topic of slavery. Ted Cruz continues to get ratioed with the Tucker Carlson interview. He tries to post back and fight back, but he gets ratioed even worse. The Acura RSX is coming back, but it's going to be a crossover EV. And Ford has yet another recall, this time another 300,000 vehicles. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, see that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, go reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part podcast, yes, do you have the Acura RSX? Well, it's coming back, but it's a boring crossover EV, a soulless machine. Disappointing, of course. Now, it's brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, and a friendly reminder to click that subscribe button. It might help with my speaking ineptitudes. When I first started the show, barely anyone tuned in, well, maybe some family, and I had no subscribers. But as I got more subscribers, I've been slightly better at speaking. Though many people would say it's still terrible, I would argue, statistically speaking, an improvement. So a friendly reminder to click that button, and again, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, this again, it's credited to Motor1.com, specifically Chris Perkins over there. He says, quote, "The Acura RSX is back, but it's no sports car. The RSX returns as an electric crossover, but unlike the ZDX, it uses Honda's all-new EV platform." Pathetic. Soulless. It almost reminds me of that Star Trek, the famous scene where he talks to his dad, or talking about, Obi-Wan is talking about the guy's dad, because he's more machine than man. Which, yes, I know that's Star Wars, but in all seriousness, this is almost as sad as when Mitsubishi, which used to be a great company a long time ago, the Lancer Evo was an incredible feat of engineering. It had 3 pedals, as they should be by default. But since it's for Mitsubishi, the Eclipse was iconic. It was fast and furious. It's a fun sports coupe. And Mitsubishi has fallen so hard, they turned it into an SUV, a crossover. A completely different market, a completely different demographic. Taking that once great name and slapping it on a useless SUV from Mitsubishi, which, let's be honest, about 18 people in the United States want a Mitsubishi yellow and Mitsubishi SUV. So, yeah, all these great car companies taking their iconic names and using them for crappy new products. Although, in Acura's defense, the yellow at least does look good on the vehicle. I like colors that pop out. Anything but white cars and black cars. Now, diving into the article for this crossover EV, Chris Perkins says, quote, "Nearly 25 years ago, the Acura RSX debuted as a successor to the Integra. And it very much continued to be in this car's vein, a fancier version of the Honda Civic. Now the RSX is back as something entirely different, an electric crossover with fastback roof." Lovely. Acura is debuting the new RSX prototype during the Monterey Car Week, and it previews a soon arriving EV. They say, unlike the ZDX, which uses the General Motors Ultium electric car architecture, which I can't believe people are buying a Honda branded GM. You ever want the reliability of GM with the design and look of Honda? No, they want the reliability of Honda, but people buy it anyway. Nevertheless, they see the RSX is a homegrown effort. It will be the first production car on Honda's new EV platform, which debuted with the Honda Zero Series concepts, and Acura plans to build out this in the same facility in the Marysville, Ohio location, and be built on the same line as the gas-powered Integra. They note that, yeah, side note, imagine telling someone that 20 years ago that the RSX and the Integra would exist along each other, and one would be an SUV. Acura is calling it as a prototype, but technically Honda prototypes are very close to the eventual production models, which, again, Honda owns Acura. It's their luxury brand. So this is pretty much what the new RSX would look like, though we're not sure if the yellow paint will be an option. Mechanically, the RSX has a dual motor, all-wheel drive, double wishbone front suspension, and Brembo branded brakes. For a second, I almost wonder, are they not Brembo brakes? They're just Brembo branded. It is kind of funny. And again, Brembo makes some of the best nearly bar none, best brakes in the industry. They say the prototype sits on 21-inch wheels, and Acura says the wide rear end is inspired by the second generation NSX. which I'll show some more pictures of it, which, no, even from that angle, it continues to look disappointing, almost like a bastardized Ford Mustang E-Mach, which in and of itself is an abomination of a vehicle. Though it's even sadder to think that the Mustang E-Mach is outselling the actual Mustang with a V8 and stick shift. Now, you know that the RSX will also be the first Honda product to run the automaker's new infotainment system, called Amismo OS, named for the beloved humanoid robot. Another stupid idea. Spoiler, it's kind of been the default for the auto industry. It takes a lot of money and engineering to put into these infotainment systems. And at the end of the day, most people just want to connect their smartphone to that and have it basically mirror it, which again saves these automaker companies a lot of money in terms of, you know, the research, development, manufacturing of a full-blown dedicated device. But yeah, they're thinking, let's put our own OS on this. Is anyone asking for that? It's been tried. Maybe it'll succeed this time, but to me, that's just yet another reason not to buy this abomination. Now, they say that, quote, Acura considers this a software-defined vehicle, with the OS that learns user preferences, a system that can handle over-the-air software updates. The RSX will also get a Tesla-style North America charging standard port, and the vehicle has, has a vehicle-to-load capabilities, so you can essentially use it as a generator. Whoopee. Here's more pictures of this. Ugh. I'm actually more impressed with the background of the car being debuted. It looks like a nice wooden structure with, some nice, it's got some nice lighted accents for the Acura logo and then the RSX. I'm actually more impressed with the design of the sign behind the vehicle than the vehicle in and of itself. Because again, this crossover just looks like a crossover of a bunch of EVs, soulless machines, not very unique to Acura. If you're inebriated, it almost looks like Ford Mustang E-Mach and a Tesla had a baby, and not a good way. So yeah, it is kind of funny. I'm more impressed by the design of that lighting fixture right there. If you're watching on Rumble or the good old, the evil YouTube. Now, they say, hopefully, you won't have to wait long. As in typically the case with Honda concepts. They say that Acura is pretty much mum on the details. We don't know any sort of performance that will have, battery size, range, or anything really. We also don't want to assume the cost, but since it's smaller than the ZDX, we have to assume it's cheaper. We'll see. And yeah, I can't, but I'm not vindicated in terms of, we'll see how the market reacts, but in terms of the small sample size of the comments here, again at motor1.com, the first one is SN saying, Honda loves to destroy its legacy. First, the overweight and ugly hybrid auto NSX, fact. Then the ugly new Integra. I kind of like that design a little bit. If I had a preposterous amount of money, I would probably have an Integra Type R because it's stick shift only. It's kind of a little bit more luxury. I don't know. I kind of like that. Now, he also says the auto-only Prelude. Yeah, that's an abomination. That's going to be a hybrid. It looks cool. It's a coupe. Honda just making a coupe say more except the new Prelude. But yeah, having a Prelude that's hybrid with electric drivetrains, that's, again, not the target market. People want the Prelude. They want a stick shift. They want at least 4 cylinders of glory. And he says, now this Honda needs to do some serious soul searching to match Toyota's energy, which, yeah, to Toyota's credit, they do a lot more enthusiast vehicles and kind of cater towards the gearheads a little bit better. But to Honda's credit, they make more stick shifts than any other vehicle manufacturer on the planet. I was pretty pleasantly surprised to find that out in terms of volume of stick shifts sold. Good old Honda Civic Si for the win. And you also have Michael saying, loser car, whoever greenlit this idea, fire him. This thing will flop. Which, again, I mean, I'm not impressed. And again, I'm not their target audience. At the time of this recording, I mean, I'm single. I don't have a family. The only vehicles I ever buy will have 3 pedals, also known as a car with a gas engine and manual transmission. And if I had to get an SUV, it'd probably be a 2008 Porsche Cayenne GTS, which is a stick shift V8 SUV. It'd be stupidly fun. Hard to find, though. Very expensive when you do find it. But nevertheless, it's a new EV crossover with Acura. Probably be hitting the streets soon. And yeah, maybe 18 people buy it. I don't think, and again, it's Acura, it's their luxury division. It doesn't have to be a high volume production to be a knocked out of the park success. But I do wonder if they'll actually break even on this idea. But let me know if you're in the market for your, a crossover and are considering EV. Would you choose that over, again, the competition, which is, again, not my preference, but it's strong competition. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Pride podcast, you have Matt Walsh fighting against white guilt in public schools when it comes to the topic of slavery. Now, this comes to us thanks to Matt Walsh, of course, hashtag the Matt Walsh blog on X, and he's responding to someone I'm not purposely trying to butcher the pronunciation, though I probably will. Someone by the name of Grievous Demonclaw. He says, quote, Matt Walsh is still fighting battles from the 2017 to 2020 era about slavery. LMFAO, the Daily Wire, is very much behind the times. We've already won the battle. It's now to move on to more important things. And Matt Walsh was actually talking about, quote, every predominantly white country on the earth had abolished slavery by the early 18 to mid 1800s. Most Arabic and African countries would continue to practice slavery into the next 100 years, sometimes even much longer. Slavery wasn't abolished until Africa until the 1980s. And he continues saying it wasn't fully criminalized across the continent until 2007, which is kind of sad to think that there's actually, well, not per capita in terms of the number, there are more slaves today than there were back in the day, mostly because of, Middle East, Africa, and those areas. Now, Matt Walsh responded to Grievous Demonclaw, saying, quote, you moron, every single public school in our country, along with the media and Hollywood and every other major institution, and are all still teaching that white Americans carry some type of unique guilt for slavery. This is their core belief, and millions of Americans have been brainwashed into it. We haven't even come close to winning this issue yet. Not even within 1,000 miles of winning. Just because some of you useless idiots get bored on this topic doesn't mean it's won. It just means you lack the wherewithal to actually see the battle through the end, unquote. And this went very viral, got 1 million views and 13,000 likes, which, yeah, is pretty apt metaphor or pretty apt assessment in terms of my anecdotal experience in public schools. Yeah, you were taught that, the white, founding fathers were evil. Very unique. Slavery was mainly in the U.S. Now, fascinatingly enough, when it comes to the hot topic of reparations, no one ever talks about, well, who sold the slaves? African tribes conquering each other, then selling them to everyone on the planet. No one ever talks about the seller. Interesting. It's only the evil whites in America, which, again, Matt's right, one of the first places on the planet to abolish slavery, and was it 600,000 Americans died to make slavery completely illegal in the United States? They had a pretty big war, and that was one of the contributing, you could argue, if not one of the main contributing topics of the Civil War in the United States. And yet you're always taught in middle school, Midwest, when they actually started talking more about those historical things. Yeah, they're always teaching, and to this day, in many instances, it's the evil white settlers, it's the evil, the founding fathers. Which again, one could argue, in terms of the founding fathers' documentation, Bill of Rights, the Constitution, they laid the path that eventually did outlaw slavery in the United States. But perhaps I'm alone in this assessment. Maybe everyone in the comments is saying, "Oh no, the public schools are, they're not woke at all. They have great teachers. They teach not just, the bad. They teach the good." Probably not, but let's go in the comments. One of the first ones comes to us thanks to George Bliss, who says, quote, Matt is correct. The white guilt campaign is going full steam ahead. Leftism divides, it never unites, getting 171 likes. Which, what is this? Reason number 9,758,435,018 to homeschool your kids for the love of God? I mean, people used to make fun of, they still make fun of the Catholic Church in terms of areas where children are hurt. In terms of the frequency in which that happens, public schools is the number one place. In addition to the indoctrination and all that other crap in public schools. You also have Sour Patch Lids saying, quote, getting real irritated with people who think we've won. Complacency will get us a lot faster than the actual opposition, getting 223 likes. Pixara, who only got 51 likes, but has a quote from one of my favorite intellectuals out there, Mr. Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell says, quote, it was the Africans who enslaved their fellow Africans, selling some of these slaves to Europeans or the Arabs, and keeping others for themselves. Even at the peak of the Atlantic slave trade, Africans retained more slaves for themselves than they sent to the Western Hemisphere. That got 51 likes, and a fun history fact. The traditional rebellion has a meme, or meme as some people call it. It says, teachers when I was a kid, and they all were dressed conservatively, aka not like sluts. They all had, normal hair, glasses, and the teacher said, I hope everyone had a good recess, it's time for math. And then it's juxtapositioned with a picture that says, teachers now, and they're all, thick, ridiculous, comical-looking glasses, short neon hair, about 18 pounds of metal and piercings on their face. And they say, whiteness is a privilege. Now, who is ready to hear about my sexuality? Getting 170 likes. Which, yes, for the love of God, do not have your kids go to public school. Because more often than not, I would argue they're getting dumber and indoctrinated. Again, we've seen these videos go viral, especially on platforms like TikTok, where teachers want to come out to their kids, which is disgusting, perverse, and just moronic. There's no upside to that. Again, teachers used to actually teach things like history, science, mathematics a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, some might argue. It also, again, got 170 likes. You have Jared Howell saying, quote, "Don't forget about settler colonialism. They want us to hate ourselves for for having awesome ancestors." Getting 89 likes, which, yeah, land since the dawn of time has been conquered by people. It's just one of those things where, yeah, we had better technology and we won. Again, the Native Americans didn't even have the wheel, they didn't tame horses, and they didn't have, firearms. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's quite easy. And again, the Indians would take it from each other, or some people call them Native Americans in the United States. Yeah, land has been conquered since the dawn of time. Yeah, this is the one time where leftists are saying, oh, yes, evil, terrible. When again, leading to the United States, the best country in the world, a little biased, obviously I live here, with more research, development, innovation, pretty much every category of technology, it all came from the United States. Germany had some good stuff too, obviously. Porsche, Mercedes, or Daimler-Benz back in the day, which, fun fact, it actually turned out to be named after the product, which is named after an investor's daughter, but Mercedes. But nevertheless, again, US is the best. There's Ted Nugent, also comically somewhat says, the whole world sucks, but the US sucks the least. Going down more and more. Salt T says, it's not education, it's indoctrination with the syllabus, getting 66 likes. Let's see here. Jeremiah Kaufman says, quote, "It's hard to find any schools that don't teach that Martin Luther King Jr. Is basically secular egalitarian Jesus. Prior to MLK, there was massive sin, racism. Then secular Marxist Jesus came and redeemed us." Getting 464 likes. It is also kind of funny that they kind of got rid of how religious and, suited up MLK Jr. was. Yeah, I got 464 likes. Any contrarian statements? Well, not seeing any. Most people all sticking up for Matt here. Let's see. CF Dalton says, quote, "We won't win the culture unless we infiltrate, destroy, and rebuild the rotten husk that is the public education system," getting 24 likes, which, yeah, talk about a terrible return on investment. Or if you're conspiratorial thinking, maybe it was effective because it made us dumber. But yeah, with the Department of Education, every year it was around, the test grades got lower and lower and lower. And yet the teachers got paid more and more and more. Interesting. Total coincidence, I'm sure. But yeah, a couple more interesting memes or memes as they call them, or I mispronounce them, I think, funnily. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. I'm going over to the political part podcast. You have Ted Cruz trying to ratio Tucker Carlson, but it kind of backfires as the interview gets dragged through the mud more and more and more. Now it's brought to us thanks to Ted Cruz himself, which, yeah, he went on Tucker Carlson, and Israel is the main topic, which, again, is very, very controversial in the United States, as more and more people are looking at their funding and how much help we give them. And some people are debating the ROI or what type of relationship that is. Now, again, I'm a little biased. I work in IT, a lot of cybersecurity. So a lot of those companies are also headquartered over in Israel. So I work with a couple of them, just in full transparency. Now, Ted Cruz went on this interview with, Tucker Carlson and did not do good. So Ted Cruz thought he punched back, so to say, with this video compilation of Tucker Carlson saying Israel. Now, Ted Cruz thought this was a good idea. Spoiler, not a lot of comments agreeing with him. Now, Ted Cruz, before the video, says, quote, "Wow, why does Tucker Carlson seem to care more about Israel than any other country on earth? Since our interview, he and his show have referenced Israel 14.82 times every single day. Is there something in particular about Israel that he really, really dislikes?" Which, in the interview with Tucker Carlson, I think it's about 2 hours long. I mean, it seemed to be the main point of contention that Tucker Carlson was debating was the fiscal impact that the United States was having in Israel, and what we were getting from it. I think it's about $3.9 billion a year we're giving to Israel for aid. And some people debate, well, that's basically like a coupon because they will use that to buy arms and military armaments from the United States defense contractors, which, spoiler alert, the best and biggest defense contractors on the planet and manufacturers, they're all headquartered in the United States. Lockheed Martin being the biggest one. You also have, used to be Rockwell Collins for their missile actual GPS units, but they got acquired. Raytheon, biggest missile manufacturer on the planet, that became RTX when they integrated with, I believe it was Collins Aerospace. a lot of them, they're pretty much all headquartered here. I think the only defense contractor manufacturer that isn't headquartered here is BAE Systems, which is, well, now a funny name because of the Nissan Altima phenomenon. But nevertheless, this is about 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Without too much, and it got, wow, 1 million views. So without too much further ado, and to Ted's credit, he did suit up, as all men should.
It's weird, the obsession with Israel.
I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
And now this is a video compilation from Ted Cruz.
Israelis, Israel,
Israel, Israeli Central, Israel,
Israelis, Israel, Israelis, Israelis, Israel, Israel,
Israel,
Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel, Israel,
Israel. This really 2.5 minutes.
Israel,
Wow. So someone at the Ted Cruz edit department, yeah, it looks like they actually have a counter. And it goes all the way up to, what is this? 800, and I believe it is credited to Milk Bar TV, who put this compilation together. Which, yeah, Tucker Carlson was interviewing a lot of folks, and that's been one of the hottest topics. I think it's one of the top things that's been spoken about in the news lately. So I'm not too surprised. And again, Ted Cruz tries to roast Tucker Carlson, which, yeah, some people are arguing that Tucker Carlson is cherry-picking some of his recent interviews. It is also because of the Gaza, not debate, but what's going on there. It's one of the most viral things on the internet in news right now. It's pretty topical. So some people are accusing Tucker Carlson of maybe, being selecting interviews only based on that. He actually interviewed some defense contractors that worked with the IDF. They talked about some of the things that they were doing over there. But yeah, Ted Cruz. And again, Ted Cruz, it's one of those things where there's not a lot of politicians I like. In terms of Ted Cruz, what was it? When was he last elected? I voted for him because he's very, very pro-gun. And to me, that's one, pro-gun, pro-business, those are two of the biggest things that, well, affect me in my daily life, but also that, kind of one of the biggest topics when it comes to my voting patterns. And again, Ted Cruz has been very pro-gun. He's done some good things, some things I don't like, obviously. And he thought this would be a good idea. But spoiler alert, he was ratioed beyond all belief. Most of the clips of Ted Cruz are, just being roasted online. It's been going on for weeks now. And man, he's not up for re-election for 4 years? He's got time. But I think this is fracturing his former base. And in the Republican Party, there's this huge divergence we're seeing in terms of the support of the U.S.-Israel relationship. Tim Pool famously brought it up a couple weeks ago, where you see every younger generation, their support for Israel is decreased, or is lesser and lesser and lesser. Now, going to the comments section, one of the first ones comes with thanks to the quartering, who says, quote, "I'm going to go ahead and predict this tweet does not go the way you thought it would. That got 997,000 likes. David Santa Clara says, quote, "This interview was 2 months ago and you're still obsessing about it. What a loss you took. 352 likes. I do have a contrarian statement because life gets boring as hell when you're in an echo chamber. So I try to follow as many people on the left, on the right, in the middle, libertarian as well, to get a more rounded, more interesting show. Trump Tracker, who I follow, he's very accurate profile. His hashtag is literally tracking down Trump, and he's much more left. Now, he says, quote, "Probably because Israel is the only country on earth bombing multiple countries per year." So, contrarian statement, sticking up for Ted Cruz, getting 170 likes. And he was not ratioed. The people who are replying to Trump Tracker are getting 1 or 2 likes that are opposing him. You also have Meaty saying bro, and there's a quote from Ted Cruz who said, quote, "When I first ran for Senate, my main goal was to defend the interest of Israel." And then Tucker Carlson has responded saying, quote, "And I'm the one obsessed with Israel," getting 5.1 thousand likes. You also have Bowtied Ranger saying, quote, because you care more about Israel than any other country on the earth, buddy," getting 4.3 thousand likes. Hitler says, quote, "That's you. You care more about Israel than any other country on earth, including America," getting 2.2 thousand likes, which Ted Cruz is getting more ratioed than me in the comments section, or my own comments section, which is saying something, because, yeah, a lot of the comments on my show are not positive, though the constructive ones are appreciated. It's really funny. One of the comments last week was saying I was AI, which the stuttering alone and my rate of speech being so bad, way too fast. All the flaws. Obviously I'm human. You also have Pat Greentree saying, quote, he's just a journalist. He's allowed to discuss whatever he wants, but you are sitting in the United States senator who openly states his goal as senator is to serve Israel. That's treason, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Daniel Cannon says, quote, wow, what does a senator from Texas demonstrably care more about Israel? Or sorry, he says, see, that's how I know I'm not an AI machine. He says, wow, why does a senator from Texas demonstrably care more about Israel than the United States? This is a tweet from June 18, 2025 from Ted Cruz's account saying, quote, I came to the Senate committed to being the leading defender of Israel, getting 5.3 thousand likes. Let's see. Pizza Pep says, quote, how much is AIPAC giving you? Getting 171 likes. Let's see. Fake Vivek says, quote, why don't you just move near your constituents in Tel Aviv, which famously in Israel, getting 559 likes. Paul says, maybe because Americans are struggling and you fools keep sending more money to foreign governments, getting 49 likes. Chase Geisler says, you mentioned it 3 times in one post, dumbass, getting 376 likes. George Alex Popoulos says, quote, it makes sense for Tucker to talk about it. He's a journalist covering global events. You're a representative from Texas. It's far weirder that you won't show up about it, getting 365 likes. The sane majority says, okay, Ted, preach. Here's a picture of Ted Cruz looking awkward and weird, which, again, I don't have much ground to stand on. I'm not very photogenic, but I have not had to replace the camera. I haven't broke the lens yet. And it is a picture that says AIPAC Tracker says Ted Cruz got $1,899,059 from AIPAC, which I got 512 likes. And Ted Cruz did address that in the interview, and it almost was like a clerical error in terms of him technically being correct, because Ted Cruz says he didn't get money from AIPAC. AIPAC organizes an event that brings people to the event, like a fundraiser dinner, one of those cliche politician dinners where people pay $500 plus for a plate, which, geez Louise, that food better be good. Obviously, no one cares about the food, but it's an instance where the AIPAC would organize the event for Ted Cruz, and the people would donate to Ted Cruz's campaign or a super PAC. So, I mean, technically, they're organizing the fundraiser, so Ted Cruz can say, I didn't take money from them. They're more the organizer, which, again, sounds like a technicality. Going down more and more, you have John Archo Cat says, you're such a dishonest scumbag. There's 2 pieces of paper, says God referring to Jacob as Israel in Genesis, says the Rothschild founded that state that employed Jeffrey Epstein. Corporate needs you to find the differences between these 2 pictures. And Ted Cruz says the same thing, getting 307 likes. Now, this is let's see, what does Ted Cruz say here? This is credited to Sam Parker from the Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson interview. Oh, come on now.
Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And I've worked every day to do that.
I got 1.5 thousand likes. Let's see. There's not a lot of people sticking up for Ted Cruz here. America First, app profile, exactly what they're talking about. It says, quote, you're a senator from Texas. You openly said your priority is Israel. I'm disgusted that I gave you my vote, and I will take every opportunity to make sure you people see you for the traitor you are. GTFY Tel Aviv Ted, getting 87 likes, which that is a catchy nickname. It's almost like something Trump would say. Tel Aviv Ted, better fly out like we did to Cancun when Texas had that awful ice storm, which Ted Cruz does not have the greatest timing when it comes to leaving Texas when there's natural disasters, though he's not unique as a politician in doing that. Can't help but think he should probably check the weather radar every once in a while. So, yeah, it's definitely getting ratioed by, Ted Cruz just got completely ratioed in this clip that he had on X. Again, he's got years to recover, but this topic is very much dividing the Republican Party. Again, some people in the comment section even said they'd voted for Ted Cruz. They're not going to vote for him again. The real question is, years later when that time comes, will he actually win re-election? I forgot if he's actually timed out and he has to go for another job. But yeah, this is one of the biggest topics in politics that's kind of fresh in the party. And yeah, Ted Cruz, and again, social media is a difficult thing. It's, Lord knows I'm no expert at it. I get ratioed all the time. But yeah, let me know. Do you think Ted Cruz will politically recover from this? Again, he's got years where he has to worry about anything. And do you think this will be the big topic that could fracture the entire Republican Party, even for the midterms that, before we know it, they're going to be right around the corner? Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the Chicago mayor saying that Trump is intimidated by black intellect. Now, this brought it to us thanks to End Wokeness, and you have Chicago's mayor there, which at least he suited up. He did one good thing right. He's looks sharp, as all men do when you wear suits. And it's only about 26 seconds of insufferability and lies, but let's hear what he has to say.
Okay, fine. Since you are begging, I do believe that Donald Trump is intimidated. I think you're begging.
No interruptions.
So let me just answer that. I do appreciate you begging. So I would just say it like this, that the president has always been intimidated by the intellectual prowess of black men. And so, of course, he would speak in those petite and puerile terms because... Okay,
yeah, someone claiming Trump is racist, which is the dumbest thing. Again, one of those things where the amount of donations he's given to African-American communities, the amount of employees and people he's worked with throughout the decades with Trump and all of his businesses, yeah, Trump is a lot of things. I don't think he's a racist. You might think you're dumb because you're a moronic politician. It doesn't have anything to do with the color of your skin. It's an instance where, I don't know if I'm original in this assessment, but I've said this for many years. I think capitalism defeated racism decades ago. Again, if you're in business, you want to build the greatest business, you want the most resumes possible, so you're not going to discriminate. You're going to want to build out the best company. You want to work with as many prospective clients as possible. It means working with everyone, which again, Donald Trump for decades did. He built empires working with everyone. And yet he's saying, oh no, Trump is racist, which again, they've also said that term so often in the past 10 years, I think it's lost all semblance of a meaning. And of course, yeah, the mayor of Chicago, one of the most corrupt, terrible places on the planet, nearly 100 years of Democrat rule. I'm sure it'll be a safe, great place to live next year. And that's a, I guess, dark humor, political pun, because very much like the Chicago Bears, who, no, they'll never win the Super Bowl. I don't think so. It's an instance where it's funny. People always say the Chicago Bears, they'll be good next year. They have great defense. They'll be good next year. Yeah, spoiler, the last time they won the Super Bowl, they saved those pictures to a floppy disk, which retro folks like me might like, but it's such an antiquated technology. That's where the origin came from, the save symbol on your computer when you're saving a document or an Excel or whatever. Yeah, a floppy disk. That's where they store the Chicago Bears Super Bowl pictures. Or was it the Dallas Cowboys? They're both been losers for decades. But some of the best culture personality for the Cowboys. Everyone loves them. Now, this went pretty viral. Got 2.1 million views and 1,000 likes. It's also the mayor where he actually took someone's restaurant's license away, who happened to be white, and then gave it to a African-American restaurant owner. He also his predecessor, he actually took over for the gal who looked like Beetlejuice, which again, I know I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to, looks. But yeah, it's an instance where, yeah, she actually was so openly racist, she said she would not allow white reporters to interview her. Yeah. Now going to the comment section, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, Mayor Johnson is a racist POS. This is what you get with DEI and affirmative action, a useless dumb fuck, getting 5.9 thousand likes, and apologize for my F-bomb. And in terms of DEI, they got what they voted for. I mean, the people in Chicago voted for this guy, just like they voted for Beetlejuice before him. I mean, I don't think you could argue that's a DEI hire. You could look at the statistics on who votes based on race. That happens. Tim Pool brought that up when they were talking about when, Mr. Mayor Johnson won his election. They looked at, who voted, a lot of people vote. Some people do vote within, they vote for their own race. But yeah, spoiler, in terms of DEI, yeah, a lot of the white liberal women overwhelmingly voted for Mayor Johnson. And I also have Gunther Eagleman says, quote, is Mayor Johnson really that stupid? Getting 6.9 thousand likes, which, yeah, probably, yeah, of course. Dr. Shari says, quote, imagine if black leaders stop perpetuating false narratives and actually address real problems in their communities, like fatherless households, drug abuse, staggering school dropout rates, and generational welfare, getting 2.3 thousand likes, which, yeah, but if you were to solve a problem, how would you sell them on the idea that you have to elect them to solve that problem? Yeah. In many instances, the government made a lot of life situations worse, especially when it comes to fatherless households. The government, doubled and tripled those rates, depending on which race you're looking at, before and after they incentivized single motherhood. One of the most evil things that government has ever done. Some people say is, it's just compassion. They might help out these single moms. However, the effect was, well, now you have fatherless homes because there's more of a fiscal incentive to not have a man there. There's more of a fiscal incentive not to get a job. I mean, you see those videos going viral on the TikTok all the time where the moms will say, you can't get a job because if you do, they'll take away my EBT. They'll take away our Section 8 housing. There's more of a fiscal benefit to not have the father in the household, which is terrible. Because if you look at kids who commit crime, who get in all the ruckus, I mean, it's a single mom's raising those guys overwhelmingly. And I don't know if this is conspiratorial of me to think that the government did that to make people more and more dependent on voting for a bigger government. Or maybe it's just a coincidence that, the government, quote unquote, tried to help and made the situation infinitely worse. And no mayor is ever talking about that. Yeah, just a couple of those actions would, dramatically would fix Chicago. Again, it'd be a long thing in terms of fixing the culture and the crime. But if they were just have someone be honest, be like, hey, you want to improve our community, we need dads in the households. That one thing would not change Chicago overnight, but that would have, I believe, one of the greatest impacts that you could have. Now, you also have Paul Zupa saying, quote, if Brandon Johnson is so intellectual, why does he need to have the lowest approval of any U.S. mayor in history, getting 2.7 thousand likes? Base electrician, he only got 99. Let's make it 100 likes. He says, quote, if Brandon Johnson were born white, he would be fully immersed in the trans shit. Wait, what? If Brandon Johnson was born white, he would be fully immersed in the trans shit in order to still scream victim. Getting 100 likes. We also have David Santa Clara saying, quote, one word, my friend, you know it and I know it. And it's Paulie from The Sopranos with his signature hand gesture. Or that's just how Italians say hi, I don't know. Or I will have to investigate that more. So we have the pinky and the index ring pointed out. Getting 447 likes. No one's really sticking up for the mayor of Chicago. Let's see. Crushing woke culture says, quote, yes, because nothing screams intellectual prowess like leading a city to record crime, massive exodus, and financial ruin. If it's the standard for brilliance, Chicago's residents deserve a refund. In 1.8 thousand likes. But yeah, I think the whole cliche of saying someone was racist is just in 2020. And again, the people who are actually racist, there's 10 of those assholes left. Again, not to be too bombastic or too vernacularly crass. Again, they're out there. But again, I think those people are so few and far in between. They're so rare. Now, maybe this will be an effective way for him to get more funds, maybe improve his approval rating, maybe. I don't think so, but let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford recalling yet more vehicles, this time 312,000, because, whoops, the brakes might not work yet again. Now, this brought to us thanks to Yahoo Finance. I believe this is their 96th or 97th recall of the year. They are breaking records, though, not in a good way. And they say, quote, Ford recalls 312,000 vehicles for loss of power brake assist, which they actually have a really cool looking Ford Bronco. I'll credit them to having the only stick shift SUV out there. Looks like in the middle of the desert, which is, well, probably an anomaly. I can't think 99% of these are pavement queens that never go anywhere off-roading. But at least it does look pretty good there. Though I fear if you look at that too much, it might fall apart and break in real life if you were trying to take that picture. So, unless I had a very speedy photographer. I'm only partially kidding. Now, they say that, quote, Ford is recalling number 312,000 pickups and SUV models for loss of electronic power brake assist that can extend stopping distances and increase the risk of a crash. This recall includes the, 2025 F-150, among other vehicles. I'll mention those in a second. But come on, Ford, it's your one vehicle you're known for and the most profitable thing you do that, again, fuels all your little pet projects like the EVs, which someday might make a profit. You lose about $5 billion a year because of that. Yeah, it affects their most important vehicle, the F-150. Also the Ranger, the Expedition, the Bronco, and Lincoln Navigator. Nearly everything that were built between November 2023 and June 2025. They estimate that only 1% of the recalled vehicles are suspected to have a defect. They're issuing a over-the-air software update to fix it, but they have the option to schedule a service appointment with the dealer for it to be performed free of charge, of course. Now, they say that Ford discovered the problem on May after its Expedition Navigator Rapid Response Team identified a vehicle that exhibited a loss of power brake assist and stored diagnostic trouble code. The incident occurred on a few management lease program vehicles, which offers lease deals for employees, which I don't know if that's a cruel joke, giving employees leased vehicles at Ford. Don't you want to make it home safe? And again, I love the fact that Ford makes a Mustang with a stick shift and V8. I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Ford because of that. But it almost seems like cruel and unusual. Okay, employee, good luck getting home, because you may or may not get there. They say that, quote, from May through June, Ford used the connected vehicle database to identify other models that stored the DTC believed to be related to the brake issue. The investigators also reviewed vehicle data logs and met with drivers that experienced a sudden loss of power of brake assist, excessive pedal travel, or longer stopping distances in order to determine the scope of the problem. Ford investigators, which apparently exist, conclude that the electronic brake booster EBB module may malfunction while the driver or when the driver is using an advanced driver assist feature. Majority of the recall is affecting 218,000 out of Ford F-150 miles. Again, your most profitable important vehicle. They say the EBB replaces the vehicle's traditional vacuum-operated brake booster with an electronic motor to provide braking assist. These systems offer more precise stopping control and are used in electronic vehicles without a vacuum source. According to the recall report, the EBB module is susceptible to change its voltage and can lead to momentary current spike exceeding the unit's overcurrent modular threshold. The problem is the EBB sensor shutting down, loss of power, and this is where you gotta be careful when you're making stuff. This was sourced from a tier 1 supplier, Bosch, or Bosch, however you want to pronounce it, which, again, vehicles are one of the most complex things people will ever buy. They have between 10 and 30,000 components. A lot of them aren't made by Ford or by the manufacturer of the vehicle. I mean, they usually make the important things like, the drivetrain, engine transmission, the frame, a couple door panels. But yeah, a lot of the components, especially electronics, come from third parties. And again, in theory, when they're ordering these from folks and they're ordering these from companies, they're supposed to put them through a stringent quality control program. Or probably they claim they do. But in this case, not so much. So, and of course, they'll be able to fix it for free, but it takes you time, energy, and frustration to actually go to the dealership and get that done. And again, it's the most important vehicles made by Ford in terms of the profitability of the company being affected. So, gotta say, Ford, you are once again the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.